I devoted 10 years of my life to helping my husband rise from a penniless student to a celebrated business tycoon. Yet, he shamelessly purchased a lavish mansion to house his first love. When his mistress suffered severe complications during childbirth, he forcibly turned me into a blood donor. As my last drop of blood was drained, he had the audacity to commend me, saying, "For being so understanding, I'll make sure the Smith family survives." I smiled faintly, my expression chilling. Little did he know, I had lifted him up only to ensure his downfall. Chapter 1. When I opened my eyes again, my husband and I were back 10 years in the past. We had just completed our midterm intern assessments and were waiting for the supervisor to announce the rankings. Just like in my previous life, I was first and Ethan was second. The difference this time was, last time, he eagerly flattered me with a stream of compliments. This time, before the results were even fully announced, Ethan stood up. His eyes were filled with disdain. "Mia Smith cheated. Maybe you don't know, but she's the company heiress. Do you honestly believe her results are legitimate?" The room erupted in whispers. Everyone turned to look at me. I stood up. "Yes, the company belongs to my family, but everyone here witnessed my presentation. Whether it was good or bad, I believe each of you has already made up your mind. However, since this colleague has raised doubts, I'll voluntarily forfeit first place. My achievements don't need anyone else's validation, nor are they confined to this small assessment." Ethan openly challenged me. "Miss Smith, do you think I want to be first? I just can't stand someone using their family connections to act recklessly. If the Smith family values nepotism over merit, then I have no intention of staying here." Very well. In my previous life, I pretended to be submissive, intentionally letting those around Ethan tell him that his success was all his own doing, that even without me, he would still become a business tycoon. Apparently, Ethan believed it. No man wants to credit his success to someone else, especially a woman he once sought to use for his own advancement. So this time, it's my turn to destroy him. I coldly replied. "The Smith family doesn't need an employee like you." The incident created a huge stir. Ethan's first love, Sunny, was also interning at my company. In my previous life, he broke up with her to pursue me, pretending to be an innocent puppy, claiming he had never been in a relationship. In reality, Ethan had always loved Sunny. To take over the Smith group, Ethan meticulously staged a car accident that left me paralyzed and bedridden. Then, he seduced Sunny into divorcing her husband, blatantly buying a villa as their love nest. When Sunny had complications during childbirth, he directly used me as a blood donor. My blood was drained dry by him. In this life, I will make them pay for their blood debts. Chapter 2. Sunny was retouching her makeup in the restroom while I pretended to be on the phone. My voice was deliberately sharp and irritated. "Just a mere intern from the countryside, and he dares to challenge me? If he knows what's best for him, he'll apologize. Otherwise, not only will I make his life miserable, but I'll also target anyone in the company who's even remotely close to him. I hold the power over whether these people get converted to permanent employees." I noticed Sunny paused mid-application of her lipstick before quickly leaving. I followed her quietly and soon found myself on the rooftop. Ethan was there as well. So this was their secret meeting place. If I had been more perceptive in my previous life, I wouldn't have been so easily manipulated by Ethan. Ethan was holding Sunny in his arms, but she shoved him away. She confronted him. "Since you know Mia is the company heiress, why humiliate her in public like that? Now I'm caught in the mess you've caused. If you want to stay at the company, you'd better apologize to Mia." Sunny didn't have memories of the previous life, but Ethan did. With a confident smirk, he responded, "Mia is nothing. The Smith group won't last much longer. Soon, she'll be a fallen heiress." Sunny's face was one of disbelief. "Ethan, do you even realize what you're saying? This is the Smith group. It can't go bankrupt. Even if it does, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. Mia could crush us like ants, no matter what." Ethan was starting to panic. "Sunny, believe me, Soon I'll be a business tycoon, a man of great wealth." At a loss for words, Ethan even resorted to superstition. "When I was young, a fortune teller told me I was destined for wealth. I'm the chosen one." Sunny couldn't hide her disdain. Her eyes were full of contempt. Fearing the consequences of getting involved, she impatiently said, "Let's not meet for a while." She turned to leave, only to freeze when she saw me standing at the corner. Chapter 3. She looked panicked, quickly trying to distance herself. "Miss Smith, Ethan and I just happened to run into each other. We're not close." I laughed. I laughed at her blatant lie, at her thinking I was a fool. Just like in my past life. Rather than saying Ethan forced her into divorce, it was more accurate to say she was complicit. She regretted breaking up with him, convinced that she could have been Mrs. Dwan. So, even though Ethan kept her in his villa like a pet canary, she willingly bore his child. She even came to provoke me, pregnant belly and all. Don't blame Ethan. Don't blame me either. Even if it wasn't me, there would be other women around him. If you want to hate someone, hate yourself. Look at you, neither alive nor dead, lying in bed all day, tubes attached to you. I'm a woman, and I find it repulsive. How could a normal man like Ethan even want you? If I were you, I'd rather die than live without any dignity." I had considered ending it all. But Ethan wouldn't allow it. He hadn't fully taken control of the Smith Group yet, and I was still of use to him, so he wanted me to endure suffering. I didn't expose Sunny's lies, just warned her. "It's best not to visit the rooftop during work hours." She muttered a quick agreement and left. Ethan heard the noise and approached. When he saw me, his anger flared. "Mia, is this your doing? Why did I wake up to find myself back 10 years ago?" Once a celebrated CEO, now reduced to a penniless student, the shift was difficult for him to accept. I hid my hatred, looking at him with genuine confusion. "Ethan, are we really that familiar? I don't understand what you're talking about. If you want to keep your job, stop wasting time on the rooftop during work hours. You know I'm the company's heiress. Whether you stay or go is entirely up to me." Ethan was furious. "Keep pretending." But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find hatred in my eyes, just confusion. He stormed off, enraged. "Being an heiress means nothing. You're just lucky you were born into the right family. Without them, you'd be nothing. Once I develop my new product, your company will go bankrupt. I'll be waiting for you to beg me for mercy." To provoke him further, I intentionally teased. "I'll be waiting. Just don't end up under my heel again." Chapter 4. I knew Ethan wanted to follow his old entrepreneurial path. During the day at the company, he started openly poaching people. He'd approach them and say, "The Smith Group will go bankrupt in a few years. Instead of waiting to be unemployed, why not find a new job now? I have a great game design plan. You should quit and join me. I guarantee that in 5 years we'll all be millionaires. It's better than working for someone else." To everyone else, he was a madman. No one took him seriously. They even gossiped behind his back. Ethan must be losing it. He offended the company's heiress a few days ago, and now he's spreading rumors about the company's bankruptcy. If the legal department pursues this, he'll be in serious trouble and may never work in the industry again. Stay away from him, or you'll end up in hot water too. Sunny overheard it as well. She pretended to be indifferent, but I saw her fingers gripping the mouse so hard they turned white. That night, after finishing late at work, I noticed the stairwell lights were on. I walked closer and saw Ethan and Sunny inside. Sunny was breaking up with him. "I told you to apologize to Mia, but you didn't listen. Instead, you're spreading rumors about the Smith Group's bankruptcy. If the boss takes action, no big company will hire you. To put it bluntly, your future's over. You want me to stick around and suffer with you? Women choose men to improve their quality of life. Look at you now, what could you possibly offer me? Your poverty?" Ethan didn't beg. He sneered and mocked her. "Sunny, you haven't changed. You're still all about the money." "Fine. Let's break up. Don't regret it." Sunny quietly sighed in relief, thinking Ethan wouldn't agree so easily. If she weren't forced, she never would have broken up with him. After all, they had been together for 5 or 6 years. Ethan might have come from a poor family, but he was excellent in every way. He had potential. After the breakup, Ethan worked tirelessly, his fingers flying over the keyboard. I knew he was writing code, trying to put together a game design sample to attract investors. But what he didn't know was that I had already ordered the IT department to install surveillance on all the company computers. Was it really appropriate for him to be working on other things during office hours? Chapter 5. Sunny quickly found a new boyfriend, Luke, a rich second-generation heir. He often drove a sports car to pick her up after work. When Ethan saw them, his eyes turned red. In front of everyone, he grabbed Sunny, preventing her from getting in the car. As I drove by and watched their struggle, I deliberately asked, "Sunny, is this the man you said you weren't close to?" Then, I turned to Luke and reminded him, "Mr. Luke, your taste in girlfriends seems to be getting worse. Are you sure she's good enough to step into your family's circle?" Luke didn't say anything. Sunny shook Ethan off with force, urgently explaining to Luke, "Luke, it's Ethan who likes me. I've clearly rejected him, but he still won't leave me alone." I watched them with cold indifference. To prove herself, Sunny not only lied to Luke but also pushed all the blame onto Ethan. Unfortunately, the man wasn't angered. Instead, he eagerly approached them. I reminded her, "Sunny, you're being deceived. This man isn't a real heir." In my previous life, I had introduced Ethan to many wealthy families, so he remembered. He was right, there was no heir in the Luke family, only a daughter studying abroad. Clearly, Sunny didn't appreciate his warning. Instead, she became angrier. "Ethan, I rejected you, and now you're holding a grudge and slandering Luke. If Luke isn't the real heir, then what about you? Look at yourself, always talking big. Wake up." After that, Sunny got in the car. I quickly texted Luke, "Take Sunny shopping for luxury items to calm her doubts." Luke wasn't just a fake heir, he was someone I had arranged on purpose. In my previous life, Sunny had told me to die, so now I would make her life a living hell. Chapter 6. Ethan blocked my car, reminding me of how, in the past life, he tampered with my car to seize control of the Smith Group. He caused a car accident that left me paralyzed for life. When he swore to find the culprit and avenge me, I actually believed him. Thinking it was a rival, I handed over the management of the Smith Group to him. Afterward, Ethan changed. With power in his hands, he became fearless. One day, he stopped visiting me in the hospital. My father sighed when he saw me, my mother cried, and even the nurses looked at me with pity. It was then that I discovered Ethan was seeing someone else. His mistress was none other than Sunny, who was already married. A surge of hatred flashed through me, and I almost drove straight into him. Then, the passenger door opened, and Ethan got into my car. "Mia," he said, "you need to go tell Sunny that Luke's family doesn't have an heir. That man is a fraud." He thought I was still the paralyzed Mia lying in a hospital bed, the one he could control. I stretched my fingers that were gripping the steering wheel and let out a cold laugh. "Ethan, watch your words," I said. "Luke is a childhood friend of mine. If you continue to slander him, I'll tell Uncle Luke, and you won't be able to handle the consequences." Ethan glared at me for a long time, his eyes filled with hidden rage, before he slammed the door open and left. I didn't stop, I stepped on the gas and drove off. Once I got home, I let out a sigh of relief. Ethan was doing it on purpose. He wanted to test if I had memories from my past life. He tried to provoke me into showing a slip-up, but thankfully I was prepared and didn't fall for it. That evening, Luke messaged me saying that when he dropped Sunny off, Ethan had hit him. I instructed him to keep all the evidence. The first round of my attack was about to begin. Chapter 7. The next day, Ethan was unusually excited at work. During lunch, He called Sunny to the rooftop again. But little did they know, I had installed surveillance cameras on the rooftop. At that moment, I was eating while watching their petty squabbles unfold. Sunny, visibly annoyed, said, "Ethan, enough. I know you want to say I was deceived, but Luke gave me $1 million Hermes Birkin last night. Even if he's lying, I'm fine with it. I know you're trying to slander Luke to punish me for leaving you, to make me regret my choice, but even if you become a billionaire, I won't be jealous. Just stop clinging to me." Ethan pulled out a lottery ticket and the latest winning numbers. "Look, I won the lottery, 10 million. You're with him for money, right? Now I have money. Break up with him right now. He's not a real heir. The Luke family doesn't have a son." 10 million was a huge sum for Sunny. She checked the numbers. But compared to 10 million, marrying into the Luke family and becoming a wealthy wife would be much more profitable. After some thought, Sunny firmly refused. "With you, I can only have 10 million in this lifetime. But with Luke, I could have tens of millions." Seeing Sunny so determined, Ethan had no choice but to tell the truth. "Sunny, I'm actually Ethan from 10 years in the future. In that time, I became successful in business, and I've met many heirs and heiresses. I'm sure Luke isn't who he says he is. You've been deceived." Sunny stood there, wide-eyed. She wasn't sure whether she was shocked by the news or terrified by Ethan's wild words. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "Think about it. Is it really so easy to win the lottery? I knew the numbers because I bought this ticket 10 years ago. Stay with me. I promise within 5 years, you'll be Mrs. Dwan, envied by everyone." The more excited Ethan became, the less Sunny believed him. As they continued arguing, Sunny's phone rang. It was Luke. "Sunny, I was beaten by the man who stopped you at the Smith Group entrance last night. I'm in the hospital. I've thought about it, and I think we should break up. Since you've been involved with another man while we've been together, and caused me to get hurt, I want you to return everything I bought you and pay me $1 million as compensation. Otherwise, see you in court." Sunny yelled at Ethan. "You beat him, and now he wants to break up with me. Are you happy?" I knew Ethan too well and could already tell he was secretly pleased. Who knew he was so weak? Not much of a man, really. "Now that I have money, I'll pay. No problem." He didn't know it was I who had instructed Luke not to retaliate. Chapter 8. In the end, they settled privately, with Ethan paying $1 million to Sunny. He was still basking in the joy of rescuing her, enjoying the warmth of their reunion after all the ups and downs. He had no idea that he had already lost his chance to rise again. That $1 million came from his experience in the past life, and he just threw it away. From here on out, he had zero startup capital for his business. Crushing him was as easy as crushing an ant. I accelerated the game development. While Ethan was busy writing code and seeking investment, I had already completed the first round of internal testing. Seeing Ethan with his face always hanging low, I couldn't help but smile. Did he really believe he was the chosen one? In the previous life, I helped him perfect the game script and design. When he couldn't secure investment, I reached out to my investor friends to help him, even giving away this high-return project to others just to preserve his fragile ego. That's how Ethan came to believe that all his success was his own doing, with no connection to me. But the truth was, without me, he wouldn't have even been able to secure a single investment. Soon, my game was officially launched, and on the first day, it had over 20 million users. The game was a hit. And I became famous. The Smith Group's standing in the industry grew even more solid. Ethan woke up from his dream and, upon seeing the news, rushed straight to my office. He roared, "Mia, you lied to me. You said you didn't know me, so how did you know about my game design? You're a thief. A dignified heiress of the Smith family, stealing someone else's work. If this gets out, can the Smith family still be an industry leader?" I calmly dialed the security to come upstairs. As Ethan raged, I smiled and played dumb. "I don't know what you're talking about. The game was my design. If you claim I stole your work, do you have any evidence? Without evidence, you're just spreading rumors. If I hear you make another baseless accusation, not only will I fire you, but I'll make sure you can't work in this city again." But seeing the woman he once trampled underfoot now becoming a rising star in the business world, Ethan couldn't accept it. So, he sued me. The charge: plagiarism. Chapter 9. The case caused a huge stir online, especially since the game had become so popular. The topic of plagiarism quickly gained traction. On the day of the trial, Ethan presented his game design samples, accusing me of plagiarism. I immediately opened my computer, showing the files with timestamps. After verification, although the content of our games was very similar, all my work was done ahead of his. I won the case. Ethan, still lost in the fantasy of his past life where everyone revered him, couldn't accept the reality. In fact, he even rushed toward me in front of the judge. I took the opportunity to sue him back. I presented evidence of his assault on Luke, the rumors he spread about the Smith Group's bankruptcy, his slacking off at work. And then I publicly announced that the Smith Group had no need for such an employee. I did it intentionally. The case was getting massive attention, not only from game enthusiasts but also from industry leaders. By publicly presenting the evidence against Ethan, I cut off all of his future opportunities. No boss would hire an employee who slacked off, and no investor would fund someone with questionable ethics. Ethan would have a hard time finding work again. He'd probably have to slink back to his rural hometown. Ethan was driven crazy by me. In front of the judge, he shouted, "Mia, just wait. I killed you once, I can kill you again." Indeed, in the previous life, I died at his hands. I knew he was still trying to trap me, hoping I would slip up and reveal that I had memories of my past life, thus proving I had stolen his game design. I smiled. A lawsuit is just a lawsuit. There's no need to make it life or death. I'm not interested in your life. The game is only halfway through. If you want to continue fighting, I'm ready. After getting into the car, I rolled down the window to thank him. By the way, I should thank you. This whole farce made my game even more popular. The downloads have already surpassed 1 billion. Seeing Ethan's gloomy eyes in the rearview mirror, I knew he wouldn't give up. In the previous life, he said he needed to succeed before he could be worthy of me. So, I held back my talents. Although I came up with the idea for the game and wrote most of the code, I handed everything over to him. I thought that if he succeeded, he'd marry me. I never imagined that after all these years of genuine effort, I had raised an ungrateful wolf. How ironic. Chapter 10. Ethan tried to repeat his old trick, sabotaging my car. He didn't know that after the previous life's lesson, I had installed a small, hard-to-detect camera in the back seat. Before driving, I always checked the footage to ensure my car was safe. This time, I saw Ethan in the footage. Just like before, he tampered with my brakes. In the previous life, when I tried to brake, I found the brakes had failed. It was rush hour, and despite shouting for people to move, I still crashed into several cars, injuring innocent people and ending up paralyzed. This time, I took the evidence and took a cab home. The next day, I made a reservation at Ethan's favorite restaurant and invited him to dinner. I thought he might not come out of guilt, but he showed up on time. I smiled. I laid my cards on the table. Disappointed? I'm not dead. Ethan didn't even look up. I don't understand what you're saying. I smiled without saying a word. I placed the backup video on the table. Do you understand now? If not, I can post it online for millions of netizens to explain it to you, or I can give it to the police. I'm sure they'll educate you well. Ethan's expression was priceless. He couldn't believe it, muttering, How could this be? In the previous life, you were paralyzed and didn't know it was me. Have you become smarter, or is there a flaw in this damn rebirth? I stopped pretending. I slowly sipped my wine. Ethan, did you really think your car accident plan was flawless in the previous life? You're so foolishly self-assured. I can't believe I died at your hands. His eyes widened. He was so agitated that he almost knocked over the plates. You've been deceiving me. This was all your plan. Mia, how dare you? I'll sue you. You want to harm me. I shrugged, completely unafraid. I grabbed his chin, my long nails digging into his flesh. Ethan, you paralyzed me for 3 years, drained my blood for Sunny, and took my life. Now, I'm just giving you a small taste of suffering. Can't you handle it? I slapped his face, the sound crisp. Now you have two choices. I can send the video to the police, and you can wait to go to prison, or you can go to a mental hospital and stay out of sight. I gave him 5 seconds to decide. As I expected, he chose the mental hospital. Because Sunny was pregnant, and if he was convicted, it would affect the child's future. I laughed. Because Sunny had already betrayed him. Chapter 11. I spoke with the director of the mental hospital, ensuring Ethan received VIP treatment and was well taken care of. Escaping was impossible. When he couldn't endure the torment any longer, I sent Sunny to visit him. Ethan was excited. How's our baby? Is he behaving? He pressed his head against Sunny's belly, trying to hear the baby. Sunny, why isn't your belly showing any change? Before he could finish, Sunny pushed him away. Ethan, I had an abortion. You know I fear hardship and poverty. How could I survive as an unmarried woman with a child when you're in a mental hospital? I came to tell you that I have a new boyfriend and we're getting married. Ethan's eyes turned red. With the mental torment he had endured, he pushed Sunny to the ground. He choked her. How could you? That was our child. Do you know I threatened the doctor to drain Mia's blood for you and our unborn child? The child is gone. He's scared alone. Why don't you go keep him company? The medical staff quickly intervened, restraining Ethan and injecting him with a sedative. Sunny hurriedly left. I saw a luxury car parked at the hospital entrance, with a refined man leaning against it, waiting for her. Sunny happily ran to him. This was the beginning of her misfortune. In the previous life, after marrying this man, Sunny was not only abused but also had her freedom restricted. She had a miscarriage after being pushed by the man, hitting her belly on a coffee table. She then had habitual miscarriages, and the man used her inability to have children as an excuse to cheat. This was why, even after enduring 10 months of pregnancy, she couldn't escape complications during childbirth. Sunny's life was destined to be a tragedy. This was the price she had to pay for harming me. Chapter 12. But this revenge was far from enough. I arranged a private medical examination for Ethan. After the checkup, I brought the report to his hospital room. Seeing me, Ethan gritted his teeth, wishing he could get up and hit me. Unfortunately, to prevent him from getting agitated, I had him sedated in advance. He couldn't move at all. I sat by his bed and asked, Ethan, do you know your mistake? Though he couldn't move, he turned his head, trying to spit at me. I laughed. It seems you don't. I held the medical report in front of him. You're infertile. Whether in the previous life or this one, Sunny's child was never yours. You think you're so smart, but you were always manipulated by Sunny. Ethan struggled to lift his hand but couldn't. His face was filled with destructive anger, but his voice was weak. Mia, are you trying to deceive me again? You better hope you can keep me in this mental hospital forever. Once I get out, I'll stop at nothing to kill you. In the previous life, we had been married for years without conceiving. I secretly went to the hospital for a checkup, and the doctor said I was fine. So the problem was with Ethan. I didn't want to hurt his pride, but he used my supposed infertility as an excuse to hurt me. I didn't bother explaining, just said, If you don't believe me, ask the doctor yourself. In the previous life, I didn't tell you to spare your dignity. I've carried this burden for you long enough. It's time to give it back. Later, I heard from the hospital that Ethan requested a checkup. As expected, he was infertile. One day, I received a call from the hospital saying Ethan had escaped. I expected it. I thought he would come for revenge, but he showed up at Sunny's wedding. He went to the bride's dressing room and, when no one was looking, stabbed Sunny. Sunny was rushed to the hospital, her fate uncertain. Ethan was arrested and sentenced to death for attempted murder. On the day of his execution, I officially took over the Smith Group. His end marked the beginning of my rebirth.